call upon our next speaker, who has come all the way from the Punjab, is Jaswant Singh Khalra, who is the Secretary of the Human Rights Wing of the Shiromani Akali Dal. Mr. Khalra.
Dear friends, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Shri Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. First of all, on behalf of the Sikhs in India, I thanks to the Member of Parliament who have written a strong letter to Indian government to withdraw the TAD Act. And I hope that the people of Canada, the members of Parliament and government will help us to protect the human rights which have been violated by the Indian government there. One thing which is a good experience for me, I want to share with you that when I have to enter the Parliament complex, I asked my host that if I can carry the kirpan to this complex, and I was happy that when my host told me that yes, you can carry kirpan in the Canadian Parliament complex. And there is a tragedy in India that when our leader Simranjit Singh Man was elected with a record margin to the Parliament, he was refused the entry into Indian Parliament with kirpan, and it is a shameful thing for India, and we are so sorry that in our country, which we consider that that is our country, we are not have a freedom to carry our religious symbol. And in this point, I can tell you that in the 400 pages of Indian Constitution, there is a single line which related to the Sikhs, and that line is that the Sikh can wear and carry the kirpan. Only line in the Indian Constitution. And when the Simranjit Singh Man was going to the Parliament, he was denied the entry because he is carrying the kirpan. So these are the positions. Now I come to the real commemoration of the day. I will tell you the story that in these 11 years, I personally want to enter the Golden Temple on the day when the Indian forces, when the Indian army destroyed our religious Akal Takht Sahib, but in 5 times I was arrested along with others, and there is no permission for Sikhs to commemorate this day in the Golden Temple. And this is the position that after the June 1984, our Golden Temple is in the siege of the security forces, and we have to enter in the Golden Temple after our whole search with the security forces. And our right to religion, our right to enter our main central religious place is violated in India, and we want that if you cannot help us in our political goal, political objective, please help us for our human rights and the basic human rights of the man. We the Sikhs consider that the basic human rights is the right to religion, and we have denied this right, and this is the position that we cannot commemorate this day in the Golden Temple. And it is the first time from 84 that I am commemorating this day, and that is the place which is not in India, in Ottawa. So I want to share some other things about the human rights, because the UN Human Rights Charter has given some universal human rights to every human being in the world, but in India we have been denied these basic human rights. First of all, I have explained you that right to religion have been denied. Then the right to expression, the second main human rights, we have been denied. We cannot express our feelings, and there is an example that Mr. Simranjit Singh Man have been detained because he addressed a gathering and said that we want a freedom, and he is detained under the TAD Act. So the expression right is also denied. There are some other rights, even the right to association. So there is a new act in Indian Parliament, the People's Representative Act, in which we have been forbidden to make an association based on our religion. The discrimination is based on religion, and we are only discriminated that we are the Sikhs, but we are forbidden to associate, to make a political party, to appeal on the issue that there is a religious discrimination, and in the elections they can ban us, the Akali party or any party who is based on the religion. So this is the violation of our human rights to have an association. For the TAD or other acts, I will request you that the real cause for forming these acts, there are so many nationalities in India who want to have a right to self-determination, but in the name of unity and integrity of India, they impose such acts and they detain people. You know that in 47, two states which are the Christian majority states, Nagaland and Mizoram, they were crushed by armed forces in the name of unity and integrity. Now they are crushing the Kashmir and Punjab. So we appeal to the international community that you should pressurize the Indian government that the right to self-determination should be incorporated in the Constitution, so that the people who want this right to self-determination should not be called the secessionist, and they should not be booked under the Terrorist and Destructive Act. So you should ask the Indian government to incorporate this right to self-determination in the Indian Constitution. There is a right to leave the country, which UN has granted. There is a right to enter the country. We, the Sikh people, as the Sikh people from abroad wants to go to Golden Temple, the we people who lived in India wants to go our religious place in Pakistan, Nankana Sahib, which is the birthplace of our religious founder, but we have no right to leave the country, to enter the Pakistan, to pay homage to our first Guru, to visit the central Sikh place. So we want that the Sikh people living all over the world should have a right to enter freely into India to visit Golden Temple, and we want a right to leave the country to visit Pakistan, where we have to visit our religious place, Nankana Sahib. So these are the fundamental human rights which we want that you should pressurize the Indian government. Last, because I work on the human rights field, last year we found that the thousands of our young men were picked up by the police and they have been disappeared by the security forces. When we went to the courts, the police say that these people have gone abroad and they are working in the Western countries as refugees. But we know that these people have been killed in the false encounters. When we investigate this case, we found that in the municipalities, the cremation grounds of the cities, 25,000 bodies have been cremated as unidentified and unclaimed. These were the bodies of the young men, the persons who have been disappeared by the security forces. And we put the record to the press, to the judiciary, that these are the proofs of unidentified bodies, but we have no justice on this point. Even when we go to the High Court refused that it is not a public litigation. When last month we went to the Supreme Court of India, the Supreme Court was also helpless. There is a National Human Rights Commission, which India claimed that in this commission will protect the human rights. We went to the Human Rights Commission, its chief, Mr. Mishra, but he said, I am helpless because there should be another Human Rights Commission in Punjab, but Punjab government has not formed this commission. I cannot see into the cases which are related to the Punjab. So this is the position. The Indian government claimed that they have formed such and such commissions. There is a judiciary, but when the Sikhs went to the courts, to the commissions, when they demand justice, the Indian unity and integrity feel that it is in danger. So we are denied every human rights. Even in this case, we want that the Indian government, Indian judiciary should only show us the photographs of these dead bodies, because the families of these bodies wants to know that if their boys have been killed or they are now in the custody. But even when we demand the death certificates of these bodies, the certificates are denied. So we want your help on these all issues. The Sikhs are secular and peaceful, but we are discriminated on the basis of religion. And when we fight for our religion, our human rights, we are branded as communal and terrorist. The country which is fighting with all his neighbors, with Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, he is claimed to be as a non-violent, peaceful, and the Sikhs who sacrificed for this country, they are branded as terrorists. This is the tragedy. But I hope the Canadian people, the Canadian Parliament, Canadian government will see into this true picture, and they will help us to defend our human rights and to live with dignity. I am very thankful, and I hope, I want to share one personal thing, that my family was deported from Canada in the Kamagata Maru Jahaj, but I was so happy when last time I visited, Mrs. Clean assured me that Canadian peoples are behind you and behind the Sikh community, and I consider that this is a nice country. That impression was not a real which our family have. Now I am very happy and pleased to visit your country, to meet your people, and I hope you will help us to protect our human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khalra. Ajit Singh Sahota tells me that you have done considerable personal work. My eyesight must be getting weak because I noticed Colleen Bomia sitting not too far from me, and she has been a great friend of the Sikhs, a Liberal member of Parliament, who is also a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I'd like to welcome you, Colleen Bomia. I also noticed another great friend of the Sikh community, Jean Augustine, Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Come in, Jean, welcome. Our next speaker is the US Congressman John Doolittle. He's a Republican, Of course, they're dominating down there nowadays. He was a California state senator, elected in 1980 for 3 terms, and last elected in 1990 from California as a congressman from the state rather than a state senator. Sorry to get all that confused. Welcome, Congressman John Doolittle of the United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. Solicitor General, distinguished members of Parliament, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here to visit you in Canada. Canada is our largest trading partner, and I've long admired your beautiful country. I have not had the privilege of ever visiting the eastern part of Canada until just this weekend, and I just wish that I had a little bit longer, and I look forward to coming back and making that opportunity to spend a little more time here. Our family is from the West, California, so we've visited British Columbia before and admired the tremendous strength of your people, beautiful and abundant natural resources that you have here, and it is really wonderful to be here and to support the Sikh community in its cause for justice. When I hear of the tremendous oppression going on in India against members of your community, it greatly saddens me, and it reminds me, I must tell you, of in character at least, and degree, the types of abuses that our forefathers in the United States revolted against. We will celebrate next month the 219th anniversary of the American Revolution. From time to time I reread the Declaration of Independence, and every time I do I find inspiration there. Of course, that while it was the American independence that it specifically referred to, the document is written, as you know, proclaiming the rights of men and women throughout the world that are deemed to be God-given or unalienable rights. And so we must recognize that although not everyone is allowed to exercise those rights because of oppressive government, they in fact, by God, are entitled to enjoy them. And I think that's important to remember. We read in the Declaration, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, and if they were writing today, they would have said women, but they meant women, are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Now those, the founders of our country, proclaimed were rights that belong to all people in the world. And I find it very inspiring. The Declaration goes on, and as you know, the people of our own country were from Great Britain, many of them, very conservative, not inclined to revolt, and the Declaration goes on to explain that one does not revolt without good reason, and sets forth the reasons. And I'm not here to urge the Sikhs in India to revolt, but I simply comment upon God-given rights. And when I hear of bounties, cash bounties being paid to police, 41,000 of them, as was indicated here, between 1991 and 1993 for the murder of Sikhs, when I hear of places of worship being invaded by government troops and destroyed and men, women, and children being injured, when I hear that torture is the official policy in Punjab, as Asia Watch reported, ladies and gentlemen, these are the magnitude of abuses that the American colonies endured. And they took the action that they had to take. You know, as I listened to the train of abuses that's gone on, I thought of the quote of George Washington. We have a big debate going in our country about whether government's good or bad. The founder said it was bad. George Washington, our country's first president, said this about government. He said, government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. And like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. We see that government has gotten beyond its bounds in India and has become the fearful master rather than the servant that it was intended to be. What can we do as the great nations of Canada and the United States and the citizens therein about these problems? I'm reminded of a statement by a former chaplain of our United States Senate, Edward Everett Hale, who had this to say: I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. What is the something that we can do? The House of Representatives recently passed an amendment to the Foreign Aid Authorization Bill, which was unanimously adopted, which cut off foreign aid to the nation of India for its development. Didn't cut off the humanitarian aid. But we decided that knowing the abuses that are going on there, we are not going to provide that kind of assistance to a country which is abusing its own citizens. Now, we've only taken the first step, because in our system we have to have the Senate to concur with our action. We have to have the President sign the bill into law. But I hope that you will do your part to communicate in any way that you can, through any means that you may have with officials in the United States, to let them know how important it is that we maintain that amendment. That will cut off over $70 million foreign aid dollars to the nation of India. It'll send an important message, and one I think that will be recognized. We have here the very recent example in Canada where the appellate court ruled that one could serve in the, I believe it was the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and wear turbans. Your freedom of conscience was recognized, and you were recognized as full citizens with right to participate even in this way, even though that the display of the turban is not traditional for the Mounties. And I commend Canada for that decision. And I would say, let us all be looking for further ways. How can we advance the cause of truth and justice? People are suffering. What can our countries do, short of sending our own armed forces, which I'm not advocating, nor have I heard anyone else advocate, but what can we do? What is our sphere of influence as countries that can be used in such a way as to advance the cause of justice? And I would submit that as we ask ourselves this question in these two very important countries in North America, that we will find answers, we'll be able to do things that will make a difference. And I believe that when we do our part, God blesses our efforts and does His, and the effect will be dramatic. I salute you and thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight.
Thank you, Congressman John Doolittle from the 4th Congressional District of California. I was looking at his CV and I thought there must be some link to the Sikhs. I noticed he serves on the House Committee on Agriculture. So that's must be something there, right, Gyan Singh? But thank you for your speech and thank you for bringing the perspective from south of the border. And it certainly has touched a nerve here. I am also informed that Maria Meena, Member of Parliament from Beaches, Woodbine and Bonnie Hickey are also here among us. Well, our next